Good morning, students. This is lecture number 3 for chapter number 7, Evans Tries an O Level, written by Colin Dexter for class 12th, subject English, book Vistas. Children, as you know, I have already delivered 2 lectures of this chapter. Okay, and in this lecture number 3, I shall teach you this chapter from page number 78 to 81. Before I proceed further with page number 78, I will recapitulate what I taught you in lecture number 2 of this chapter number 7, Evans Tries an O Level. Children, in lecture 2, I taught you the description of Stuart McLary, who was a reverend parson, respected parson from St. Mary Mag's, appointed as an invigilator for Evans' examination in prison. Right? So he left his bachelor flat in Broad Street at 8:45 in the morning and he started moving towards Carfax as it was drizzling. So he found the thick lenses of his spectacles also wet with the sprinkle of rain. Right? And then he was carrying his small brown suitcase with him, which contained all the things that he would need during his duty, including a sealed question paper envelope, a yellowish invigilation form, special authentication card from board examination, a paper knife, a Bible, as well as he was carrying a copy of Church Times that was a newspaper, right? And then I taught you the preparation of the cell for examination. All the precautionary measures were taken there. All the sharp objects were removed from the lockup of Evans and the special duty was given to the senior prison officer Jackson and junior prison officer Stephens. Then, as they knew that Evans was not trustworthy as he had already escaped from jail many times, then the priest, that is Stuart McLary, reaches in time the prison gate, shows his authentication card there, signs in the register and enters. He was escorted by the prison officer and they all were sure for the security including the governor. Governor reviewed the situation again. He knew that there was no chance with Evans this time to make his escape possible as they had taken all the precautionary measures and they had fit one microphone in the lockup of Evans also. Right? Then the governor asked Jackson to go and frisk McLary too, because though they had removed all the sharp objects from his cell, but if McLary had brought something with him, could be used by Evans to take advantage. Therefore, Jackson went and checked McLary and he found a semi-inflated rubber ring in the suitcase of Evans, and when he inquired, McLary told him that he was suffering from hemorrhoids, means piles. Piles is a disease in which the veins swallow. Right. So he got his veins swollen. Therefore, McLary told him that he was suffering from piles. Then McLary instructed Evans about the rules, and here the lecture 2 got ended. Right, and now we shall study how the exam actually started. You know, children, the exam was scheduled at 9:15, but now it would get little late due to the frisking of McLary suggested by the governor of HM prison. Now children will proceed further with lecture number 3 starting from page number 78. Silence. 9:20 a.m. McLary said, I am now going to. Evans, this is not going to stay here, is he? McLary, I don't know about that. Stephens, Mr. Jackson's given me strict instructions to. Evans, how am I supposed to concentrate on my exam with someone breathing down my neck? Christ, sorry sir, I didn't mean. The governor reached for the phone. Jackson, ah, good. Get Stephens out of that cell, will you? I think we are perhaps overdoing things. As you wish, sir. So what we studied in these lines, children, when McClary was about to say start, Evans interrupted him and looked at Stephens. Stephen answered that he had been ordered by Jackson to stay there for the exam. Evans complained of not being able to concentrate if someone will be constantly watching him like that. He also felt sorry for this. Then the governor called Jackson and ordered him to get Stephens out of the cell as he thought that they were overdoing the things. Right? They had taken so many measures for the smooth conduct of examination, and he realized as if they had been doing so much of things. Therefore, he told Jackson to take Stephens out of the cell. Now Stephen would be sitting outside the cell of Evans, and inside the cell it will be only the examinee and the examiner. Then the governor heard the exchanges in the cell, heard the door clang once more, and heard McClary announce that the examination had begun at last. It was 9:25 a.m. and there was a great calm. So the exam that was scheduled at 9:15 got late by 10 minutes here. Right? Now it was 9:25. At 9:40 a.m., the examinations board rang through and the assistant secretary with special responsibility for modern languages asked to speak to the governor. The examination had already started, no doubt. A quarter of an hour ago. Yes, well, there was a correction slip which some fool had forgotten to place in the examination package. Very brief. Could the governor please? Yes, of course. I'll put you straight through to Mr. Jackson in D wing. Hold the line a minute. So what we studied here? The governor heard what was talked on the phone between Stephens and Jackson. He heard the door being shut and also heard McClary announcing the beginning of the examination. It was 9:25 a.m. and there was a great peace, calmness. At 9:40, the exam started at 9:25 and at 9:40, the assistant secretary for modern languages called up from the examination board to speak to the governor of HM prison. The examination had already started about a quarter of an hour ago. He told him that some fool had not placed the correction slip in the examination package. He then tried to seek help from the governor. The receiver assures him of help by directly connecting the call to Mr. Jackson in D wing. Right. So at 9:40, the governor received a call from the assistant secretary for modern languages and he wanted to make one correction in the paper that Evans was taking. Therefore, the governor connected the call to Mr. Jackson who was in the D wing. Let's read from book now. Was this the sort of thing the governor had feared? Was the phone call a fake, some signal, some secret message? But he could check on that immediately. He dialed the number of the examination board but heard only the scato bleep. Scato is a short musical note. When you find someone's phone is busy, there also you hear such sound, such musical sound, right? So he also heard the scato bleep of a line engaged. But then a line was engaged, wasn't it? Yes, not very intelligent that. 2 minutes later, he heard some whispered communications in the cell and then McClary's broad Scots voice. Scots is another term of Scottish. Will you please stop writing for a while? For a while means for a short time, Mr. Evans. And listen carefully. Candidates offering German 021-1 should note the following correction. On page 3, line 15, the fourth word should read Goldenen, not Goldin, and the whole phrase will therefore read Zem Goldenen Lon, not Zam Goldenin Loven. I will repeat that. So children, this was the correction that the invigilator made Evans do in his question paper. What happened? Could this be a reason behind the fear? The governor thought. Governor got suspected after receiving a call. Then he wanted to confirm whether it was a fake call or real call. So he dialed the number of examination board, but he found it was busy, right? It was already engaged. Then after a gap of 2 minutes, he heard some whispers in the cell, in the lockup. After a while, he heard McClary was giving instruction to Evans in his heavy Scottish voice. He asked him to stop writing for a while and instructed him to open page 3 of the question paper, and he gave him some instruction as to make correction of a fourth word in fifth line, that was goldenon, and it would be goldenine. It was goldenine and he wanted it to correct by writing goldenon. This was the correction made by Evans in his question paper. Children, now we are reading on page number 79. The governor listened and smiled. He had taken German in the sixth form himself, and he remembered all about the agreements of adjectives, and so did McClary by the sound of things, for the minister's pronunciations was most impressive. But what about Evans? He probably didn't know what an adjective was. The phone rang again, the magistrate's court this time. They needed a prison van and a couple of prison officers, remand case, and within 2 minutes the governor was wondering whether that could be a hoax. Hoax means a false warning. He told himself not to be so silly. His imagination was beginning to run riot. Riot means wild. So what we studied in these lines, the governor listened to the conversation of McClary as well as Evans, and he smiled because he had taken German as a language when he was in 6th class. He remembered about the adjectives, and so did McClary. The minister's pronunciation of the word sounded very impressive to the governor, but he thought there were less chances of Evans being aware of the adjectives in German. Meanwhile, he received one more call. Children, you always have to remember the number of calls that the governor is receiving in between the examination session. So now it was the second call that he received from magistrates. Magistrate is civil officer who administer law, right? So this time the call was not from the board examination, but it was received by the governor from the magistrate. There was a need of a prison van and some officers, as there was a remand case. Then, within the next 2 minutes, the governor thought it to be a fake call. But then he thought that he was thinking too much. His imagination was getting out of control and he was becoming fishy for every normal routine of the jail. So he thought, no, he must send a van of officers for the remand case as it is ordered by the magistrate. Now see in your book, Evans. For the first quarter of an hour, Stephens had dutiful peered. Peered means peeped. Through the peephole at intervals of 1 minute or so. And after that every 2 minutes, at 10:45 a.m., everything was still all right as he looked through the peephole once more. It took 4 or 5 seconds, no more. What was the point? It was always more or less the same. Evans, his pen between his lips, sat staring. Staring means gazing. Straight in front of him towards the door, seeing, it seemed, some sorely needed inspiration from somewhere. And opposite him, McClary, sitting slightly askew. Askew means slanting, right? From the table now, his face in semi-profile. His hair, as Stephens had noticed earlier, amateurishly clipped pretty closely to the scalp. Scalp means head's skull. His eyes behind the pebble lenses peering short-sightedly at the church times. His right index finger hooked beneath the narrow clerical collar, and the fingers on the left hand. The nails meticulously manicured. Meticulously means carefully, and manicured means they were kept tidy. Slowly stroking the short black beard. So, for the first 15 minutes, Stephen had looked into the cell through the peephole after a gap of every minute. You know, it was initial time of the examination and he remained very alert during that time. Then at 10:45, everything seemed normal, and when he looked through the hole, there was no difference, and it remained almost always the same things. Evans was always chewing his pen and looking at the front, whereas McClary always seated on his chair, a bit titled on one side of his face, partly turned. Stephens had noticed him earlier that his hair was cut very short near the scalp. He was reading the Church Times, that newspaper he carried along through his spectacles, and his first finger was under his collar, and the fingers of the left hand were nicely manicured, and he was softly touching his black beard. So whenever this Stephens peeped into the hole, right, into the cell through the peephole, he found the situation of the examinee and the examiner was almost same. They were sitting in the same position. There was no more changes and there was nothing suspicious. Now, at 10:50 a.m., the receiver crackled to life and the governor realized he had almost forgotten Evans for a few minutes. Governor, who was very alert for Evans and his examination, got a call from the magistrate. So at 10:50 he realized as if he had forgotten Evans for a few minutes. Evans spoke. Please, sir. Evans. Please, sir. Evans. Would you mind if I put a blanket round me shoulders, sir? It's a bit parky in here, isn't it? Parky means cold. Evans. There is one on me bunk there, sir. McClary. Be quick about it. Silence. So what happened at 10:50 a.m.? The receiver crackled to life and the governor realized he had almost forgotten Evans for a minute. And the conversation went between Evans and McClary, in which Evans was asking McClary to permit him to take the blanket round his shoulders as he was feeling little cold there, right? And McClary permitted him. He said, be quick about it. You can take the blanket from your bunk and then you can wrap it around your shoulders. Children, now we are on page number 80. At 10:51 a.m., Stephens was more than a little surprised to see a grey regulation blanket draped round Evans' shoulders, and he frowned slightly and looked at the examinee more closely. But Evans, the pen still between his teeth, was staring just as vacantly as before, blankly beneath a blanket. Should Stephen report the slight irregularity? Anything at all fishy? Fishy means suspicious. Hadn't Jackson said? He looked through the peephole once again, and even as he did so, Evans pulled the dirty blanket more closely to himself. Was he planning a sudden Batman leap to suffocate McClary in the blanket? Don't be daft, foolish. There was never any sun on this side of the prison, no heating either, during the summer months, and it could get quite chilly in some of the cells. Stephens decided to revert to his earlier every minute observation, and at 11:20 a.m. the receiver once more crackled across the silence of the governor's office, and McClary informed Evans that only 5 minutes remained. The examination was almost over now, but something still gnawed away quietly in the governor's mind. He reached for the phone once more. Gnawed means chew. So what we studied here, at 10:50 a.m. Stephens opened the peephole and was surprised to see Evans sitting with a blanket on his shoulders. It seemed very strange to him, and even he thought of reporting Jackson for this new change he had noticed. He again looked at him and noticed that Evans pulled the dirty blanket close to himself. Now Stephens was getting doubtful about Evans. He even thought that he could harm McClary by suffocating him with his blanket. But then he told himself that he should not behave so foolish, as there is no sun on the side of the prison, not even in summers. Then how will he suffocate him? Right? And if he had taken permission, that is fine, as it is really bit parky, means bit cold there. It's normal that the cell gets chilly. So he decided to return back to his every minute check through the peephole, right? And at 11:20 a.m. once again the governor's phone rang. This was the third time the governor's phone rang. Meanwhile, McClary told Evans that only 5 minutes were left for the examination to be completed. Governor was still doubtful about something, but he went to receive the call. This was the third call that the governor was receiving during this examination session. Now I am reading from book. At 11:22 a.m., Jackson shouted along the corridor to Stephens. The governor wanted to speak with him. Hurry, man. Stephens picked up the phone apprehensively. Apprehensively means in a worried manner. And listened to the rapidly spoken orders. Stephens himself was to accompany McClary to the main prison gates. Understood? Stephens personally was to make absolutely sure that the door was locked on Evans after McClary had left the cell. Understood? Understood. At 11:25 a.m., the governor heard the final exchanges. What was that final exchange? The final exchanges of the answer sheets. So at 11:22, Jackson shouted to Stephens as the governor wanted to talk to him. Right? Jackson is senior officer. He shouted to Stephens and he told Stephens that governor wanted to talk to him, so he would pick up the phone. And then he ran up and listened carefully to each and every instruction given by the governor to Stephens on phone. Stephens was told that it was his duty to accompany McClary to the main gate of the prison, means he would go to see him off there, and Stephens had to be fully assured about Evans' cell being locked properly, right, when McClary leaves it. Now we are on page 81. McClary said, "Stop writing, please." Silence. McClary, "Put your sheets in order and see they are correctly numbered." Silence. Scrapping of chairs and tables. Then Evans said, "Thank you very much, sir." "All right, was it?" "Not too bad." "Good." "Mr. Stephens." Very loud. The governor heard the door clang for the last time and the examination was finally over. Right? "How did he get on, do you think?" asked Stephen as he walked beside McClary to the main gates. Because Stephen was ordered by the governor to see McClary to the main gate of the prison. So while walking with him, he asked him, "How did he get on, do you think?" "Oh, I can't think. He is distinguished himself." Distinguished means differentiated. "I am afraid." His Scots accent seemed broader than ever, and his long black overcoat, reaching almost to his knees, fostered. Fostered means supported. The illusion. Illusion means imaginations that he had suddenly grown slimmer. Right. So McClary asked Evans to stop writing, and he also told him to arrange the sheets in order. And then the sound of movement of chairs was heard by the governor, and Evans said thank you to McClary. He queried as to how his exam was. Evans replied it was not too good, it was not too bad. Right? He then called Mr. Stephens. The governor heard the final shutting down of the door, and the exam was finally over. Stephen asked McClary that did Evans' exam go well? McClary seemed a bit different from the earlier one. Moreover, his overcoat was now reaching close to his knees, leading to the imagination that he had suddenly turned slimmer. Because He found this officer, Stephens, who was going to drop him to the main gate, found there was some change in the look of McClary because he received him from the gate and now he was going to drop him to the gate as ordered by the governor. Now, Stephens felt pleased that the governor had asked him and not Jackson to see McClary off the premises, and in all the morning had gone pretty well. But something stopped him from making his way directly to the canteen for a belated cup of coffee. He wanted to take just one last look at Evans. It was like a program he had seen on TV about a woman who could never really convince herself that she had locked the front door when she had gone to bed. Often she had got up 12, 15, sometimes 20 times to check the bolts. Fine. So what's written here? Stephens was very happy that the governor chose him over Jackson to accompany McClary off the premises. Everything was done very fine that day, and he thought he stopped himself from going to canteen for a belated cup of coffee, overdue cup of coffee, and he thought that he must go and see Evans for the last time. It seemed to him like a TV program in which a lady is never sure of locking door before she is going to bed, and she would get up 12, 15 times or even sometimes 20 times to check whether she has bolted the main door of her house completely properly or not, right? And he thought that he was behaving like that lady of the TV program as everything went very smoothly, and he had left McClary out of the prison also after the examination. Still he wanted to have a last look before he would go to canteen to have a cup of coffee. He decided to go and check once more whether the things were right with Evans in his lockup. So children, now we are reading the last para on page number 81. He re-entered. He, who is this he? Stephens. Stephens re-entered the wing, made his way along to Evans' cell and opened the peephole once more. Oh no, Christ, no. There sprawled back. Sprawled means lie back. In Evans' chair was a man. For a semi-second, Stephens thought it must be Evans. A grey regulation blanket slipping from his shoulders, the front of his closely cropped, irregularly tufted hair awash with fierce red blood, which had dripped already through the small black beard and was even now spreading horribly over the white clerical collar and down into the black clerical front. So what he noticed there? He dropped McClary out of the prison gate very safely. Stephens again entered into the D wing in order to have the last look on Evans before he would go to canteen for having a belated cup of his coffee. He opened the peephole of Evans' cell. When he looked inside through it, he cried, "Oh Christ!" as he was shocked to see the situation inside was entirely different. What he noticed? For a few seconds he thought it was Stephens on his chair, but it was not so. The churchman was lying back. His hair was soaked in blood. The blood was flowing down horribly from the beard of his collar and then on the black overcoat. So what he noticed? Who was sitting inside the cell now? Inside the cell, it was McClary lying injured. When it was McClary lying injured in Evans' cell this time, then what to whom did he see off just before he entered this D wing? Right? So he got entirely shocked to see that there was McClary lying injured in Evans' cell. So children, today this is the end of lecture 3 and we have covered this lecture till page number 81, right? And this lecture started from page number 78. Okay, I have covered next 4 pages of the chapter and now we shall proceed towards homework. By the time it's your homework to read the complete chapter from page 78 to 81 thoroughly. Thank you. Have a nice day.